centavos per kilowatt hour for residential clients.
Pag nagko-compute ng electricity rate, forward-looking ito, yung future. So, ang ginagamit, mga estimates din. Pagka sumobra yung estimate ng ERC, pinapabalik.
Meralco says the new refund takes effect this July, and it may be enough to bring down the overall electricity rate despite higher generation costs.
Sa tingin namin, batay dito sa mga kaganapang ito, ay posibleng tumaas yung generation charge. We think that the 87 centavos will effectively wipe out whatever increase may be forthcoming.
Meralco spokesman Josal Dariaga adds higher fuel prices, a weaker peso against the US dollar, and thin electricity supply continue to push power costs up. It's a welcome relief for Filipinos even as many try to keep power consumption low.
Kung may refund, makakatipid yung maraming tao. Pabor sa amin yan.
Sa panahon ng pandemic, dapat ang kuryente ngayon is hindi mataas, dapat mababa lang. Kagaya ko po sa kinikita, hindi sapat yung perang kinikita namin sa ngayon.
Bawas-bawasan ng paggamit ng mga ilaw, paggamit ng refrigerator at saka yung mga malalakas na gumamit na mga machine. Kung maulan naman po, huwag na yung gumamit ng electric fan para at least makatipid po tayo.
The ERC also assures the public won't have to pay the 22 billion pesos from a 2013 case which Meralco won before the Supreme Court just yet.
Hihintayin ng ERC ang official service ng kopya na medyo makakahinga pa tayo.
Pro-consumer groups have said they will appeal the SC decision to cushion the impact of higher prices on consumers. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Now, an advisory for motorists in Metro Manila: don't be too complacent be on alert to obey traffic rules in Quezon City. Local authorities are monitoring violators through the no contact apprehension policy. George Cahilas reports.
UV Express driver Arnel Rala was at the Quezon City Hall to pay for a traffic violation fine. Rala admits he was at fault and the traffic enforcer made the right call in issuing a citation ticket. His concern now, what if the next time he'll be subjected to a no-contact apprehension?
Mas maganda yung enforcer para alam mo yung may violation ka talaga na Kasi pag contact, parang mahirap eh. Papadalhan ka na lang ng notice.
The local government of Quezon City has fully implemented the no-contact apprehension policy to traffic violators since July 1 after a 9-month dry run. They are using state-of-the-art cameras with artificial intelligence technology and night vision capability to capture, photograph, and record the conduction stickers and plate numbers of vehicles that violated traffic rules and regulations.
Ng motorista, pag alam nilang may nagbabantay sa intersection, ang tendency they have to follow the traffic rules and regulations. So, malilesen mo rin yung mga incidents on road crashes sa intersection.
Ideally, a notice of violation will be sent through email or courier service within 14 days or more, depending on the location of the violator. Motorists must pay the fines within 30 days upon receipt of the notice. You may pay online, in select banks, or personally at the Quezon City Hall. Disregarding the notices will further increase your fines, since a 5% surcharge will be added if not paid after 30 days.
They can come here and contest the violation and view na makikita nila kung paano sila nag-commit ng violation. And also, kapag naka-receive kayo ng notices, you can view doon sa website ng Quezon City Government NCAP program na meron, makikita mo doon kung paano mo na-commit ang violation. Ilalagin mo lang yung PIN number na binigay sa'yo.
The Metro Manila Development Authority has been implementing the no-contact apprehension policy since 2016. From January to May this year, the MMDA has recorded over 52,000 violations. Most of these violations are disregarding traffic signs and obstruction. Other cities in Metro Manila that also implement the no-contact apprehension policy include Manila, Valenzuela, and Parañaque. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
The health department reported 97 more BA.5 cases. This is on top of the 43 reported on Tuesday. bringing the total of 140 BA5 cases found in samples tested between June 29th and July 4. Of the 140 cases, 4 of them remain in isolation. 129 are asymptomatic and have recovered. The agency is still checking the status of the 7 other patients. Most of these cases are from Western Visayas and Metro Manila. Others are from Calabarzon, the Ilocos region, Central Luzon, Bicol, Central and Eastern Visayas, Mimaropa, and Northern Mindanao.
Pero kailangan mag-iingat tayo sa pag-conclude dito sa ating mga nakikitang resulta. Ang ating genome sequencing process is being done purposively. Hindi po natin nakaka-capture lahat na nagpo-positibo sa ating bansa, and therefore, hindi lahat ng positibo ay nakakapag-undertake ng genome sequencing. Meaning, yun atin pong mga resulta might be biased, Kasi hindi pa ho natin nakikita yung kompleto for the rest of the country. Based from the recent sequencing result, pinakamadami ang BA.5.
Authorities add 17 of the recent 20 additional BA.2.12.1 cases have already recovered. These latest batch of patients with the subvariants are from Metro Manila, Western Visayas, Calabarzon, Cordillera, Ilocos region, and some returning Filipinos. Meanwhile, all 7 BA.4 cases reported on Tuesday have recovered. They are from Bicol and Metro Manila. Overall, the country has logged 8,248 new COVID-19 cases in the week of June 30 to July 8. That's an average of nearly 1,200 cases a day. No health secretary still exactly a week after Bongbong Marcos was inaugurated as president, but health officials say the president already gave instructions on how to improve COVID-19 vaccine coverage and the response to the pandemic. Mr. Marcos met with them on Wednesday. The officials, however, say details of the directives will be announced by the Office of the President. When asked if the redefinition of fully vaccinated to include booster shots has been discussed, Health Undersecretary Berjeres says it still needs further studies and consultation.
So kailangan po ng patuloy na pag-uusap, kailangan din po ng konsultasyon doon sa magpapatupad nito. So we will be announcing through the Office of the President the directives, and also of course we will be supporting whatever the decisions would be. What I can tell all of you would be with the discussions yesterday at saka mga rekomendasyon nga po ng Kagawaran ng Kalusugan, naging very supportive naman po ang ating presidente. He discussed with us, binigyan niya po kami ng pointers at guidance.
The health department has repeatedly urged the public to take a COVID-19 booster shot if eligible amid the threat of Omicron subvariants. Iloilo City is prohibiting the entry of poultry and poultry products from areas in Luzon and Mindanao suffering from bird flu outbreak. That is for 30 days beginning today. Mayor Jerry Trenya says the move will help prevent the spread of the disease. Exempted from the ban are transshipments of day-old chicks, day-old pullets, hatching eggs, and imported game fowls from international airports and seaports. Trenya says he has received assurances of enough supply from local producers.
To protect the industry here in Iloilo, Panay, and Guimaras, the poultry operators came to me and told me that they are very concerned. According to the poultry operators in Panay, they will be able to accommodate the demand for Panay.
When asked if the ban could be extended, Trenya says it remains to be seen since they're having problems coordinating with the Agriculture Department, which is concurrently headed by President Marcos. Up next, the President abolishes some offices under his watch in his first executive orders. A look at what that means. And the manufacturer of a popular instant noodle brand insists it follows safety standards despite health warnings from 3 European countries. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Aniangani ining sibahan inyong masundan, pagtanaw o pagpaminaw ang tumumanon sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi. Usa ka oras kini nga programa sa espirituhanong pagtulunan kausa sa matag simana dinhi lamang sa RPN, DXKO Teleradyo. Sunda ang mga mensahe ipaabot sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi sa matang Domingo alas 5 hangtod alas 6 sa buntag.
Buhay na alaala sa kamatayan ni Yesu Cristo.
Ang bulan sa Hunyo giilang National Organ and Blood Donation Month. Ang atong pagyukbo sa mga blood ug organ donors, sila ang nakatabang sa mga taong ana sa kritikal nga kondisyon ug angay ato silang pasalamatan. Suportahan nato ang Healthy Pilipinas. Mensahe gikan sa DOH ug niining sibiyahan. Nasalod ka ba?
This is CNN Philippines. President Bongbong Marcos releases his first 2 executive orders abolishing some offices under the executive branch. Rex Remito explains why Mr. Marcos abolished the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission as well as the offices of the Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary.
President Bongbong Marcos earlier expressed concern about the government's funding for the rest of the year. And with the country not yet out of the woods when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, the administration says it wants to allocate resources as efficiently as possible. One way to do this is to streamline processes under the office of the President by abolishing some offices. Among them, the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission or PACC and the offices of Cabinet Secretary and Presidential Spokesperson. The office of the Deputy Executive Secretary takes over the functions and powers of the PACC. These include the administrative cases of government officials it has been handling. President Duterte created the PACC in 2017 to weed out corrupt officials. The Presidential Management Staff or PMS, meanwhile, will handle Cabinet Secretariat functions. The PMS assists the Chief Executive on its daily functions, including meetings and trips. The late President Noynoy Aquino reinstated the Cabinet Secretary's office in 2012. It was then independent of the PMS with the role of coordinating cabinet members. The palace says employees affected by the executive orders can get benefits under the law. Under Executive Order Number 1, the President also establishes the Presidential Advisor on Military and Police Affairs Office. Executive Order Number 2, meanwhile, reorganizes and renames the Presidential Communications Operations Office or PCOO to Office of the Press Secretary. The order also abolishes the Office of the Presidential Spokesperson. The PMS will take over management of Radio Television Malacanang or RTVM and the Philippine Information Agency under the President's Office. Noynoy Aquino expanded media operations under his office by establishing the PCOO in 2012. There was also the now defunct Presidential Communications Development and Strategic Planning Office. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
President Marcos marks his first week in office with steps to address problems affecting consumers and the transport sector. The chief executive met with energy officials today to discuss surging fuel prices. Among those who attended were Undersecretaries Donato Marcos and Roberto Uy. President has yet to name his energy secretary. The Office of the Vice President is now offering medical and burial services in its satellite offices. The OVP says these services can be availed of through identified partner hospitals or direct walk-in applications. Applicants will be asked to submit requirements such as medical and death certificates. Vice President Sara Duterte opened 6 regional offices across the country on July 1st in a bid to expand the OVP's reach. These are in the regions of Ilocos, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, the Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga. The Sandigan Bayan defers a hearing on a civil forfeiture case against the family of President Marcos over alleged ill-gotten wealth. The Marcos family was supposed to begin presenting evidence today. However, the family's lawyer asked the Anti-Graft Court Second Division for more time to prepare their documents and witnesses. The court gave the Marcoses another month to prepare evidence. The case was filed in 1987 involving Marcos family business associates, spouses Rebeco and Erlinda Panlilio. The Marcoses supposedly used the Panlilios as dummies in acquiring properties through loans from government institutions during the administration of Ferdinand E. Marcos.
It's not that we're not ready, but we have to be sure that what we present to the court will stand judicial scrutiny po, no. So it's not that we're not ready. We really just have to make sure that we prepare the best defense for our client. We'll have to check, no, because as you know, our client is the president, so he has other matters to attend to aside from this one. But we will consult with the court regarding that.
Pre-trial hearing is set on August 5. Congress opens session in less than 3 weeks. Amor Santos reports a supermajority is already taking shape in the Senate, while it remains to be seen whether the minority bloc gets more allies.
With efforts to form a supermajority in the Senate in full swing, the fate of the minority bloc appears to be in limbo. Senator Coco Pimentel, who wants to be the minority leader, says he has yet to meet with the Cayetano siblings. He's eyeing to do so before the opening of session on July 25th. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano earlier said the only way he could be a fiscalizer in the supermajority is by being the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. But the position has already been given to Senator Francis Tolentino, according to presumptive Senate President Mig Zubiri. Cayetano says he's still weighing his options. Opposition Senator Risa Ontiveros believes there may be a window of opportunity in the next 2 weeks, but she vows to ensure checks and balances in the chamber with or without new allies. According to political science professor Jean Franco, the minority needs to amplify its voice.
They are few in numbers, then what they need to do is really to get outside of the institution and gather support from different groups, because that's the only way you can do, and also from other party lists and more independent-minded members of the House of Representatives.
Meanwhile, for Zubiri, the daunting task of forging a supermajority is over. As he assures they won't be a rubber stamp of the Marcos administration, Franco says they have to prove it.
I get sleepless nights, I have anxiety attacks, so yes. Siyempre napakahirap dahil it's a balancing act between wanting to please your senator members but also keeping the institution intact.
It's unfortunate that we have a supermajority, and usually when you have a supermajority, fiscalizing function of the Senate is compromised or weakened. It needs to be seen whether this incoming Senate will actually perform its function as a key fiscalizer of the executive branch.
Zubiri says key leadership positions are almost set in stone, and former Senate President Tito Soto agrees. Nothing, though, is official until elected by majority of the Senate. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
News overseas, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is set to resign following a rebellion in his Conservative Party. A Downing Street spokesperson says the embattled leader plans to address his country in the coming hours. Over 50 members of the British government have resigned to protest Johnson's leadership. The UK Prime Minister has been involved in a series of scandals that forced even his strongest supporters to abandon him. Johnson will remain in his post until his party picks a new leader. Back here at home, it is the turn of farmers and advocates arrested in Hacienda Tinang in Tarlac during a bungkalan or land cultivation activity to sue the prosecutor who handled the complaint against them. The group, they call themselves at Tinang 83, accuses acting provincial prosecutor Mila Montefalco of grave and serious misconduct, gross ignorance of the law, and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service. They argue Montefalco held inquest proceedings in an unfair and discriminatory manner. The farmers want the prosecutor relieved from her post and dismissed as a public lawyer. The Capas Municipal Court junked the malicious mischief and illegal assembly charges against the Tinang 83. The Food and Drug Administration is investigating some instant noodle products that supposedly have a high presence of a harmful chemical. That's after authorities in France, Ireland, and Malta issued health warnings and recall orders against Lucky Me instant noodles. The European country said certain Lucky Me products have high levels of a pesticide called ethylene oxide. Manufacturer Modenisin clarifies that it does not add the chemical in their products and maintains that they follow food safety standards. Health Undersecretary Mario Rosario Vergeres says officials will only pull out specific batches from the market if the FDA finds harmful chemicals in them.
So kung ano man po ang matagpuan ng ating Food and Drug Administration na talagang with the presence of this specific component or chemical, yun lang po yung tatanggalin sa merkado. Pero katulad ng sabi ko nga kanina, aantayin po natin yung resulta ng investigasyon na sinasagawa ng Food and Drug Administration.
Vergeres says ethylene oxide may cause headaches, nausea, vomiting, loose bowel movements, difficulty in breathing, and fatigue. Sports and entertainment stories coming up on Newsnight. A Tokyo Olympic swimmer is switching from Team Canada to Team Philippines. And trending online are new projects under Netflix, including a live-action adaptation of a famous anime series. Welcome back to Newsnight. Making headlines in sports, Gilas Pilipinas player William Navarro is taking his talents to the Korean Basketball League. Korean news site Jump Ball reports Navarro is suiting up for the Seoul Samsung Thunders. The former Ateneo Blue Eagle is set to join the squad after the FIBA Asian Cup in Indonesia, which ends on July 24th. And two-time Olympic medalist Kyla Sanchez commits to donning the country's colors after competing for Canada in the last 6 years. The Filipino-Canadian swimmer, however, must complete a one-year residency before she can represent the flag in international events, with a possible stint in the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Now that I'm older, I'm more independent, and I think now is a good time to bring what I do and what I love here in the Philippines. Freestyle, sprint freestyle events. That has been my biggest role on the international stage. So hopefully, and I know I will, improve through swimming here and in a new training environment. I want to achieve great things for the Philippines, so let's say gold medal, and you guys can hold me to it.
Sanchez made her international debut for Canada in 2016 and has since established herself as one of the most prominent Phil-Canadian athletes. Entertainment news now. Good news for K-pop and K-drama fans. The Korean reality show In the Soup, Friendcation, featuring V of BTS, Park Seo-joon, and many other stars, premieres July 22nd. The series will center around the so-called Wooga Squad, composed of 5 stars who met on the set of the drama Hwarang and became friends. It'll follow them as they take a vacation in the forest, or Sub in Korean. The show will stream on Disney Plus, which is not yet available here in the Philippines. Netflix announces a bunch of new projects from the creators of Stranger Things that are now in the works. The Duffer Brothers are setting up a production company called Upside Down Pictures, which is creating a live-action series of the famous anime Death Note. The streaming platform has released a non-animated movie adaptation before, but it mostly received negative reviews. And expect more monster fighting in alternate dimensions with a spin-off of the sci-fi hit Stranger Things also in production. The next season of the record-breaking series is the 5th and final one. Also making a buzz online, the trailer for Amsterdam showing off an A-list Hollywood cast. Among them are singer Taylor Swift and award-winning actors Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, and Anya Taylor-Joy. The film revolves around 3 friends who must clear their names after becoming crime suspects.
We formed a pact, and we swore to protect each other, no matter what. Tax the rich. We find ourselves in a situation where we're accused of killing someone, which is not true.
Amsterdam, set in the 1930s, scheduled to land in theaters this November. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13 sa Zinday Utso sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPM DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andam mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPM DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
The path to the Senate presidency is clear for re-elected Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri. After a near contest, Senator Cynthia Villar said she's dropping her bid for the 3rd highest post in the land. Zubiri will join looming House Speaker Martin Romualdez, the president-elect's first cousin, in forming a so-called supermajority in both chambers. With Marcos allies dominating the 19th Congress, can our lawmakers make sure that they can effectively exercise the system of checks and balances in a democracy? Good evening, I'm Ruth Cabal sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our first guest, Senator Francis Tolentino, joining us via Zoom. Good evening to you, Senator.
Good evening, Ruth. Good evening to the viewers as well.
Senator, what do you think about what's going to happen in the Senate under the 19th Congress? First of all, Senate President, do you think Senator Mig Zubiri is a sure winner already?
Well, it has to undergo a final process, consultation, but I think if, as he claims he has the numbers, it might end up that way.
May ibang reports from sources saying 13 votes are needed, but saying 12 votes na daw. Sure na daw yan with Senator Zubiri.
That's what others are claiming. So I'm not privy to the initial discussions, but I think it is going to be that way.
Pero kayo po, sino-sino po? Kasi lumalabas na names, di ba? Senator Zubiri and then Senator Cynthia Villar. You have Chisa Escudero, Gatchalian. Sino po kayo ang napupusuan nyo?
Let us leave it that way. It's going to be a conclave of the senators deciding that. So I'll be joining the majority, rest assured.
But for you, what do you think would make a good Senate president?
A Senate President should continue to project the independence of the Senate. A Senate President should be able to be the cohesive bond, so to speak, of all the 24, including himself, senators. The Senate President should be at the forefront of projecting not just the independence, but the proactiveness of the Senate in terms of coming out with effective legislative measures, especially as we are now coming out of the pandemic.
Some of those you mentioned, independence, yung ensuring cohesion, and being proactive. Do you think, tanong ko lang po, do you think Senator Zubiri has that?
All of them are qualified. All of them, if they rally behind a single person, will definitely have that. And Senator Zubiri, I think, can also project himself that way.
When you say also that you will be with the majority, ano po yung nakikita nyo ngayon? Kasi obviously it's gonna look like a super majority both in the Senate and the House.
So majority in a sense that it will not be a majority that will be a rubber stamp. A majority that will, again, I have repeated this several times, a majority that would project independence, a majority that will work for the benefit of the Filipino people.
You mentioned earlier that there are still talks and usually pinagbobotohan, but we all know how it goes in the Senate na napag-uusapan na rin naman, and there are negotiations. Even sila Senator Cynthia Villar were saying, and even the minority like Senator Ontiveros were saying, they are talking to other senators. Pero kayo po sa ngayon, napag-usapan na rin yung mga committee chairmanships. Meron po ba kayong gusto na committee na i-lead po or to be the chairman?
I think I'm being offered the Blue Ribbon Committee, and I would strive to be a performer in whatever committee I will be placed. Rest assured.
But do you also, Senator Zubiri mentioned that he's looking at you to head the Blue Ribbon Committee. Kayo po ba? Gusto niyo po ba yan? And ano ang nakita niyong possible challenges?
Well, challenges is, you know how the Blue Ribbon Committee works. It's a combination of prosecutorial in aid of legislation and what have you. So we'll try to have if that will push through, we'll try to project the Blue Ribbon Committee as the prime Senate committee. But yung tanong mo kanina, if I have other committees in mind, definitely I have.
Like what, sir?
Siguro Committee on National Defense.
Defense. Okay. Yung isa pa pong tanong ko din, follow up dito sa possibly heading the Blue Ribbon Committee. Kasi po, kayo po ay kilalang kaalyado ni President Duterte, and also you supported the unit team din po with President-elect Marcos. How can you ensure that your committee will be independent in conducting investigations?
I think my track record will show that. Definitely previous committee hearings, even though if I was not the chairman, I was able to project my independence. The most recent committee hearing probably was the stoppage of the online sabong. And modesty aside, I attended all hearings.
Isa po sa parang mapag-iwanan po ni Senator Gordon as chair of the Blue Ribbon Committee, itong investigation ng Senado sa Pharmaly. And Senator Risa Ontiveros is saying she's open to filing a resolution to possibly reopen. What's your stand on that? Reopen the investigation? Kasi hindi po nag-prosper
It has to be a committee decision. First of all, I'm not the chairman. But you have to realize, as early as October 11, I have filed 6 or 5 bills relative to Pharmaly, all in aid of legislation. Even while the Pharmaly hearing was ongoing, I filed multiple bills to correct the flaws and deficiencies in our procurement laws. I've done that. The records will show. Stamp received by the Senate, October 11, 2021.
But Senator, may I just know, you're a member of the Blue Ribbon Committee dito under kay Chair Gordon, but you didn't sign the draft committee report.
Yes, but the purpose of the hearing was to come up with legislative measures. And as I have told you, ako yung nauna. Nag-hearing pa lang, palagay ko ako lang po yung nag-file ng legislative measures confronting head-on Pharmaly. Look at the records. Baka wala pang na-file yung Blue Ribbon Committee because of the report, pero ako as early as last year, ito lang sabi ko, ito yung kailangan baguhin batas. Procurement law. We have to change the we have to change the procedure relative to Republic Act 9184. We have to change the warehousing rules. We have to change some provisions of the local government code. Yun na yung endpoint nun eh. And as a lawyer, ginawa ko yun.
Okay, sir.
Even as being a mere member of the committee, ito na yun, I deliver.
Limited time lang po tayo, sir. Last na lang po. If ever you will get to head the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, ano na po yung nakikita nyo ngayon na gusto nyong tutukan or possible investigations that you want to conduct?
Let's see. As early as 2 months ago, I've been saying something about the reported SSS net losses. Let's see how it will evolve.
Thank you very much for your insights and for your time, Senator Francis Tolentino. And we'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. I'm Ruth Cabal. Our next guests, former Senator Orly Mercado and analyst Richard Haydarian. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
Good evening, folks.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Orly.
Good evening, Richard.
Sir Orly, I'll start with you. As a former senator, what can you say about the new Senate composition under the 19th Congress, the upcoming 19th Congress?
Lagi ko na-drink yung majority, super majority. You know, nung nare-establish ang, pardon my going back to history, but you know, hindsight is important. Ganon din ang question eh. Baka wala mag-object sa inyo. 24 kami kandidato, 22 won. Ang minority lang nun, si Johnny Ponce Enrile at saka si Erap Estrada. So, people are saying, what kind of a Senate would that be? There should be a super majority, etc. It was President Koryakine who said, don't worry about that. These people, you have 24 independent republics, dyan manggagaling yung opposition. Kaya napaka-importante maintindihan sa majority na disagreement does not necessarily mean disloyalty. You can be part of the supermajority and any practical politician will join the majority. How can you get your committees? How can you get your work done? How can you pursue your advocacies? Unless you are in the majority, these are critical. So the realities, nagbabanggaan yung realities of politics and when to speak out because you think that it is in the public interest and you are actually helping the majority and helping the administration by pointing out things that are going wrong or are askew.
So looking at the composition now, Senator, anong tingin niyo po doon sa, even with the nuance, yung binanggit niyo kanina halimbawa na they would join the majority because of, you know, their advocacies. I think I heard si incoming Senator-elect Tulfo saying that also, no? Na parang he's joining the majority because of his advocacies also and yung committee chairmanship. Yung mga tao po mismo o yung nanalong senador ngayon, what do you think?
See, we sometimes lose our focus on what the role of the Senate is. It's a policy-making body. It is a deliberative, collegial body that makes laws. And you're not a rubber stamp. You have a mandate. You're elected by an electorate, the same electorate that elects the president and the vice president. So that gives you the important role of supporting legislation that will actually help our people in the end and can hopefully be easily passed. And that's fine. In a government wherein there is a meeting of minds between the policymaker and the policy implementer, unlike its fusion in a parliamentary form of government. Ang importante rito, naintindihan natin na ang objective rito is to make laws. Kasi mambabaw yung understanding ng sinasabing, majority yan. Ibig sabihin, wala lang mag-o-object. Sino pa mag-o-object? You're generalizing. Because I'm sure from the senators, there will come out people who will really disagree. And they will break away when they feel they cannot sacrifice their principles.
Okay. Let me ask si Professor Heydarian, what do you think about the looming supermajority in both houses?
Well, this is not anything new, right? This is what we also got in 2019. In fact, in 2019, the opposition did even worse, right? Not a single one from opposition made it. At least this time, you could argue at least one with Rizal Ontiveros. In fact, more if you bring in Jesus Escudero and others who were part of the Grand Alliance of the opposition. But the question is, what do you do with this supermajority? President Duterte didn't make much out of it. I think everyone was thinking, now that you have supermajority, they're going to railroad the constitutional change, etc. It didn't happen, right? So it depends how the coordination is going to happen. And let's not forget, we don't have real political parties in this country. The Unity Team is not a political party. It's a tactical alliance. And the thing with tactical alliances is that whether lang yan. So it's very possible that they were together during the election campaign. In the case of Zubiri, he defected to the other side, and we understand why this stuff are happening. But later on, as the Senate kicks off and important issues, high-stakes issue come into picture, I think that's where magkakaalaman na kung sino talagang majority, sinong hindi. I think there are going to be roughly three kinds of groups. There are going to be the yes men and yes women. Let's just be honest about it. We're not going to name names. And then there are going to be people in the middle who are going to try to, have it both ways. Some could call them fence-sitters or independents. And then there are going to be those who are going to feel, well, if the next administration is not as effective or if the public opinion is shifting, maybe they'll gravitate more towards opposition. I mean, so far, Rizal Ontiveros is clear as the opposition one. But I think there'll be more and more down the road if the incoming administration doesn't live up to the expectations. I mean, the expectations are really high on incoming President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So in that sense, it may look like a supermajority on the surface, but the coherence of that, the crystallization of that is highly questionable in light of the fact that we have no political parties. But the trend lines is clear. Since the reintroduction of democracy in 1986, 1987, the situation of political dynasties in the Philippine Congress has deteriorated. We went from around 60% in 1987 to more than 80% in 2013. And now, bati sa Senado, meron magkapatid. Dalawa pa yata yung magkapatid. Meron mag-ina. So even the Senate, which used to be the august body, a little bit above the fray, the training ground of the next president, we see that the broader trend lines in the lower house is also affecting them. So that tells you about the regressive trajectory of Philippine democracy for that matter.
So sa tingin mo, it will still be independent, as yung sinasabi ni Senator Orly na you have 24 republics pa rin. In the last Senate, we saw na hindi nag-materialize yung halimbawa, the death penalty, reimposition of the death penalty, charter change, and then they conducted an investigation on ABS-CBN and other
Depende yan. So there are going to be issues whereby you need majority, right? So you need more than 12, for instance. And then there are going to be issues whereby you need supermajority, 2/3, for instance, constitutional change, right? So siguro dun sa iba, baka majority is now more doable, especially if Ferdinand Marcos plays it well with the leadership here and there. Zubiri was part of the campaign, etc. But I think that on the supermajority part, baka medyo mas mahirapan ng incoming administration. So hindi given na porkit konting opposition, magiging supermajority on all issues. So I think the devil is in the details. So the more high-stakes issues, the more potentially divisive, that's where magkakaalaman sino ba talaga ang yes man at sino ba talaga more independent.
You have to see them talagang buckle down to work. Now, we'll continue our discussion. We'll be right back after a quick break. Stay with us. Final stretch, still with us, former Senator Orly Mercado and analyst Richard Heydarian. Sir Orly, let's talk about minority. How important is it to have a minority in every Congress? Yes.
Sa parliamentary form, lalo na katulad sa Great Britain, ang tawag sa opposition is Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition. that means that when you disagree, you're not really being disloyal. In fact, you have a very important function, and that is, as a senator, whatever party you belong to, to point out where things are going wrong, especially in a country where, like ours, where our democratic institutions have not yet taken roots in many areas. And we are still battling the scourge of corruption. I think it is very important that we have these checks and balances. Because if you abdicate that, you're a political leader, somebody else will take over. And it will be taken over, like media will take over to do the fiscalizing, etc. While within the institution, whether there are charges later on that are filed, etc., and sometimes there are complaints. Oh, you're investigating in aid of re-election and not in aid of legislation. But let us not go into motives. But I agree also that cooperation between the legislative and executive branches is critical. I think we still have memories of the LEDAC discussions during the time of President Ramos, and that has worked. There were critical issues, and today we are facing very critical issues. Kung mapapalabas natin yung mga batas mas mabilis, pero napakabigat existential issues, climate change, yung power issue, dependence on oil, etc. Our problems with food prices, etc. All of these things require cooperation. If Congress can pass it fast and implement, and the executive branch can implement it faster, then we're fine. Because the problem with legislation also is that you have many laws that are not funded properly and implemented well. It is in the implementation. It's another world. And meron function din ang Senate, even the House of Representatives, of oversight. And you also approve the budget, and that gives you the leverage to be able to demand and question, demand the information, and find out how, give the evidence that they're spending the funds properly. These are very critical issues for governance, and I think we should not lose the sight of it. Whether at times you cooperate, etc. Tayo kasi, bakit ngayon, nung araw, kalaban ng presidente, bakit ano? Let's all think and focus on what is going to be achieved and what should be achieved.
Professor, Sir Orly told us yung important role ng minority. Ngayon, sa tingin niya sa lineup ngayon, who could best lead the minority? Senator Ontiveros is saying they're talking to 3 or 4 people, and then Senator Coco is saying he's possibly joining the minority.
Yeah, we had a big surprise, right? Everyone's thinking Cynthia Villar, she would be in a strong position. She topped the race in 2019. But Mig Zubiri, he came from behind and he eventually ended up there. So I think the internal conversations on collegiality, to be able to work with each other is very important. I remember very well a few years ago, I was talking to one of the opposition senators. He was saying, I and Tito Soto don't agree on everything, but in fairness to him, the way he handles, he creates this essentially a venue and platform for proper and respectful exchange. That was very important in his selection as a Senate president. So I think the same thing will apply in terms of also minority leader or majority leader and other factors like that. And of course, many would hope that at least Riza Ontiveros will be in some sort of leadership position, considering the fact that against all odds, she was able to achieve this position, and that she's the closest to a crystal clear opposition for that matter.
And then sa tingin niyo ba, who could possibly join them with the roster now? Because they're saying 3 to 4 others. They're talking to 3 to 4 others.
Yeah, I heard Senator Cayetano. Escudero. Yeah. A number of this, let's call them more centrist, independent-minded folks. Cayetano was very strongly aligned with President Duterte, but the same thing doesn't apply with President Marcos Jr., right?
Yes,
so I think, and then with Chizo Escudero, in fairness, he was part of the opposition. I remember on election day, he said that he voted for Lenny. So he's very clear about his preferences for the opposition. Maybe a lot of folks on the other side underestimate his independence or his opposition leaning. So I think this is a chance for them to work it out. But I think Riza definitely is the face of what is closest to the opposition. I completely agree with Orly. I think in our country, there's a misunderstanding of the role of the opposition or what is checks and balances. Because either we go into loyal opposition in the wrong sense, yung kunyari lang opposition.
Or yung maingay talaga.
Or
no?
obstructionist.
Yeah.
When the reality is that a true opposition is somewhere in the middle. You're not obstructionist, but you're gonna check the excesses of the other side. So may mga issue, tama si Carly, na for instance, yung economic recovery natin, this is a big issue. Climate change is a big issue. If you look at the proposal ni Marcos, yung mga gusto niya priorities sa incoming budget, he's now been given the prerogative to have some say. It's all economics and recovery and health. And I think on that issue, dapat hindi obstructionist ang opposition or shouldn't come off as obstructionist. That's political suicide. But there are going to be other issues. Historical revisionism, denialism, constitutional change, major contentious. Let's look at that. Robin Padilla is going to take over constitutional amendments. That's going to be something interesting. Everyone's going to watch out. Anong kinalabasan yan? Magiging amendment ba ito or constitutional change altogether? So I think that's where we can have a more healthy checks and balance process and proper exchanges within the Senate.
You already mentioned some of yung possible priority legislation. Siguro, last question for you gentlemen. What do you think our kababayans can do to demand accountability from both the Senate and the House that they're supermajority right now? We start with you, Sir Orly.
Well, one of the things that has not also been fully understood is the investigations that are made by the committee, which is nicknamed the Blue Ribbon Committee, Committee Investigation. Anong napaka-importante niyan eh. And in fact, dapat sinusuportahan yan ng Malacanang eh. Kasi you cannot watch out for everybody. And you cannot also cover up and give a blanket instruction na akong bahala sa inyo. Sapagkat dito sa mga napaka-importanteng bagay ng paggasta ng pera ng taong bayan, dapat talagang we can make sure that we are held, men and women who are given the responsibility are held accountable. So sa akin, I think in the final analysis, our opposition and positions, whether you're in the opposition or the majority, can change, but it must change only largely because of the fact that you are following the interest of the greater majority of our people.
Professor.
Yeah, Senate is extremely important. This has been traditionally the training ground of not only fiscalizers. I mean, people say all sorts of things about sino nagtatop ng Senate races in the past decade or so. But let's not forget, we had people like Jovito Salonga who topped the race not once, but 3 times. I mean, human rights people, PhD Yale. I mean, those were the kind of people elected to the Senate. But I'm not saying sila lang dapat. But we need fiscalizers inside the Senate. People who are going to be bastions of independence, who are going to stand for the rights of the people. And yun nga, minsan feeling ko hindi naintindihan ng tao ano ba talagang trabaho ng legislator. Hindi sila mayor, governor, or presidente, right?
Priority legislation. Siguro, last question for you gentlemen. What do you think our kababayans can do to demand accountability from both the Senate and the House that they're supermajority right now? We start with you, Sir Orly.
Well, one of the things that has not also been fully understood is the investigations that are made by the committee, which is nicknamed the Blue Ribbon Committee, Committee Investigation. Anong napaka-importante niyan eh. And in fact, dapat sinusuportahan yan ng Malacanang eh. Kasi you cannot watch out for everybody. And you cannot also cover up and give a blanket instruction na akong bahala sa inyo. Sapagkat dito sa mga napaka-importanteng bagay ng paggasta ng pera ng taong bayan, dapat talagang we can make sure that we are held, men and women who are given the responsibility are held accountable. So sa akin, I think in the final analysis, our opposition and positions, whether you're in the opposition or the majority, can change, but it must change only largely because of the fact that you are following the interest of the greater majority of our people.
Professor.
Yeah, Senate is extremely important. This has been traditionally the training ground of not only fiscalizers. I mean, people say all sorts of things about sino nagtatop ng Senate races in the past decade or so. But let's not forget, we had people like Jovito Salonga who topped the race not once, but 3 times. I mean, human rights people, PhD Yale. I mean, those were the kind of people who elected to the Senate. But I'm not saying sila lang dapat. But we need fiscalizers inside the Senate. People who are going to be bastions of independence, who are going to stand for the rights of the people. And yun nga, minsan feeling ko hindi naintindihan ng tao ano ba talagang trabaho ng legislator. Hindi sila mayor, governor, or presidente, right? At the same time, of course, we also need people to work together on important issues. And so that we can find a kind of functional consensus to get ourselves out of all of the challenges we're facing as a country. And lastly, I don't know, I think if you're Marcos Jr. with all of those stereotypes of what the Marcoses could bring about, authoritarian, I think if a Senate is effective and shows independence, that's also good for Marcos. That's good for our democracy, and it's something positive that we can all build on.
Thank you very much to our guests tonight. And as we've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Ruth Cabal, sitting in for P. Ontiveros. Catch the next episode of Politics as Usual on Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Good evening.
Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13:68 sa bayan sa inyong radyo. RPM DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andam na serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPM DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Kanatong tanan mga suki na itong ating paminaon nga nasabta sa atong nandan nga tulumanon ang kasikas sa Kaghabyo. Kumusta diya kaninyong tanan mga kaigsunan labi na gyud sa 80 ka barangay dinis Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro o gingon man sa mga kalungsuran sa Misamis Oriental may gabi diya kaninyong tanan og man pagpanihapon. Niya nasabta sa atong programa o matod palagay bognaw nga palibot kay kusuking ulan kaganina. So may lang gani karon kay medyo naghinahinay na pero doon na pagyapoy parte sa atong mga lugar diri nga nag-ulan. Labi na gyud din na sa Misamis Oriental o gingon man usab dinhi dapit sa may area sa Bukidnon. So amping kita kanunay kay balo man gyud mo nga mag-ulan no maayo pa ang dagan sa atong panahon kaganina nga init unya then murag wala gyud murag dili gyud mo makitaan nga mo bundak day ang ulan. So daghang kayong salamat mga kaigsunan labi na gyud sa kanunayon ninyo nga paghatag og suporta, pagmonitor o labi na gyud sa mga nanimuyo dinhas daplin sa kabaybayunan o gingon man usab sa nanimuyo labi na gyud sa front kaayo og kaning landslide. So, may gabi diya kaninyong tanan. Mga kaigsunan, labi na gyud karon nga nagsaulog sa ilang adlaw nga natawan. Yehey, grabe. Unya na nato ni kwanan be kay murag nagkahinam-hinam, mura pud ato tutunlan, mura ni arat-arat sad tungod kay agoy di gyud mabangbang ang kuan kana bitaw giluto ni Malu o gingon man ni Angie nga salad. Wow, grabe gid kay sangatanan. Espesong-espeso. Bitaw, joke lang to ah. Okay, ato sang unahon be kay ang atong weather forecast nga gikan sa Pag-asa. Nagpadangat naman og pahibalo karong hapon alas 4. Nagpahibalo kini nga walay bagyo o low pressure area sulod sa Philippine Area of Responsibility. Busa ang Northern Mindanao makasinati sa panalad sa pagdagom ngadto na sa mga panganuron nga kalangitan, inubanan kini sa patak-patak nga pag-ulan, kilat ug pagdalugdog tungod kini sa southern monsoon. Hinay nga kasarangan ang hangin usab sa bagatang Kasadpan ngadto sa bagatang Sidlakan nga bahin. So mo pud kini ang resulta sa 0.6-21 nga meters nga balod sa kadagatan dinhi sa tibuok Mindanao. Maragumon usab ngadto sa hinay nga pag-ulan ang nasenati karong mga orasa. Ug ang uban usab nga mga lugar nakasinati kini og hinay ngadto sa pag-ulan diha sa Libuna, Bukidnon, Mampayag, Dahilayan og ingon man sa Lindaban, Manolo, Portage, Bukidnon. Kini pong mga lugar maupod kini ang tinubdan sa tubig nga makapabaha sa lapasan paingon kini sa Barangay Bugo. Maragumon usab ngadto sa hinay nga pag-ulan ang nasanati sa Talakag ug Baungon, Bukidnon. Kini pong mga lugar maupoy makapasaka sa tubig sa suba sa Cagayan de Oro. Sa pagkakaroon, normal level ang atong tubig sa suba sa Cagayan de Oro ug naman sa Ipunan. Og ay mo kalimot no pagdala og inyong kaugalingon nga proteksyon sa inyong lawas, labi na gyud og mga kaigsunan nato nga gikan pa sa mga layo nga mga lugar nga wala sila magdahom nga mukusog day ang ulan. Busab dalang payong kalo og ingon man jacket. Mo nang importante gyud kanang naa aron usab maprotektahan nato ang atong kaugalingon. Ayaw sab kalimot no kay balumang gyud mo magulan-ulan ang mga hugaw. Para kaganina mo pay pagkuha in taon sa mga basura pero wa na. Kagabi kumbati ng mga ilaga, mga iro, wala sige kumbati ko ni ato mga basura nga wala masulod sa insakto nga butanganan. So ibtangsa na ninyo sa sako. No, pag once na wala pa gani mga basurero, ayaw sa ninyo itapok dito sa kalsada. Kay luoy gid in town ang nanimuyo dinadapit sa gibutangan ninyo sa basura. Kay ngano man kung dili makuha ng naa anang adlaw, sumaugmaan na sab na. Kay nilabay lagi kuno ang basurero pero puno gid, grabe gid ka puno na. Ang sakyanan ba pud kay gamay. Mo nang nagamay ang sakyanan. Busa wa gid makuha ang nalabyan, no? Kay diretso pa turagas kay puno kay sa ngatanan. Busa luoy kay sa ngatanan tung nanimuyo nga duol gyud kay sa ngatanan kay kalsada man. Pag once na nga schedule ang uban mga kaigsunan nato labi na sa mga hilit-hilit nga mga lugar, ila na nga kargahon ng naay butang din na sa kanto diha sa daplin sa kalsada. So magsunod-sunod na din na, di ba? Isa ka sako ibutang nimo dito. Kay pagkati gustaw-taod dako ra kay ng oras dagdagan naman kaayo nagtipon og mo nang naa nga kung pwede aya na ninyo nang naa butang kung nanay truck na daw karon kay ang katarungan sa mga kasilinganan. Ma'am, pasensya gyud ma'am kay nakwan kanang namanggil mo sunod gyud sa amo ma'am. Unya pa among truck sa basura puno naman sumulakaw na gyud mi. Nya nagtuo baka mo nga balikan mo. pagkaugman asad na, pagkaugman asad, pero wa na bebo na kay koy ay pwede na gyud dagdaganan sa mga ilaga, uy pastilan, ipis lagi mo nang naa susud man na nga to mga pila na ka oras si itag spray ala spray. Oh. Sa sulod di ka kakuan nga dunay ipis pero diya sa gawas imong lagwerta agoy pastilan gilew. Busa kinahanglan nga atong kuano nang atong kaugalingon, no? Disiplina. Mo nang ingon bitaw nga discerning mo ibutang ang imong basura din na sa gawas, tanawa sa kuno na bay basurero nga moabot. Oh, di ba? Koy pastilan. Isa kasako ang mabilin. Pag once na ang isa kasako nabilin, doon na napila dako na kay nang na ang 30 minutos nga magtipon og ang mga basura. Oh, mo nang naa maintag matanawan ni ano kay ibalubya mo nga mag-ulan anang magabi kuy pastilan ang mga basura matingala ka ang drainage nganong naglutaw naman ni ang mga styrofoam. Anong naglutaw naman ni ang mga lata. Oh, di ba? Mo nang naa nga atong giawag ang tanan nga kung pwede ayan na ninyo igawas kung dunay truck sa kuan kanang maghakot sa mga basura. Muna kinahanglan kanang relax lang ta atong kuanon ang atong kaugalingon nga dili bitaw magsuko-suko, dili magpadala sa kainit sa ulo. O mo nang naa kana kung gusto gyud nato nga limpyo ang atong palibot. Kinaayahan gyud nang naangayan natong pagabantayan. Di ba? So ana lang kay importante ka nang naa limpyo ang imong lagwerta, ang pagkuha na lang sa mga basura. O sige, muna akong basura. Bisa po nang naan ninyo. Pero di man po lagi na ito mabasol. Kay niabot man gyud ang basurero. Pero pag abot sa basurero, may lakaw naman kaya tungod sa kapuno. Ma'am, dunay mo sunod na mo karon ma'am, bali og rescue. Ala ka. Niabot naman og hapon. Niabot na mag alas 3, wa pa man gihapon. Nausaon naman lang nang naa. Busa gamay pasensya kay ingon lagi karon gabi ipantaod na tuntuan nila mga tubo. Pero napagyapoy bangag, no? Kay mga kanang maigo bitaw sa culverts. No, mo nang ilang kuan. Busa gyawag ang tanan magmalinaw ng takanunay. Ayaw na nyo ikuan nga tungod sa kasuko na ninyo. O mo nang ingon ana gyud ang matagamtaman sa uban nato nga mga kaigsuunan. Okay. Happy birthday ka Ma Marbs Trinidad. Maria. Unsa ba ni March? Maribic. Maria Maribic Trinidad. So, happy birthday bitaw diha kanimo ma'am. O gingon man usab ma'am si Ma'am Malon, sila naghimo kaganina og salad ba lamang. Unya dayon ma'am kuan kana si Sir Jojo muna kaganina naman na abutan nako nga nagprayer, no? Nagprayer si Sir Jojo. Okay, dagang salamat sa mga kauban, kaabag, kabuhat si DOTVI is all about the people who are true light bearers to those who need their dreams bridged from impossible. I'm privileged to witness all of you honest, sincere, excellent, and hard work every time. God bless sa tanan. Oh, morning niya. Ma'am, salamat kuno sa cakes nila ni Sir Romy Del Rosario, Sir Noel Friends Club. Uy, yun na nila Friends Club. Balsi Madge, Titus Idrote Torres, o LA, hi, LA. Oh, manang naa. O nya dahil na, di pinapagyo diri sa ubos. Unto the culinary love of San Ares, Carl Hein Pios, Maria Corda, Kay Marie Preas, o si Mikok, o Puebi, manlangit. Oh, heaven po din iyahada. Oo, so si Sir Jojo nga mo'y nagatag og thank you sa prayer. Unya dayon busog yun ang tanan, no? Importante nga busog ang tanan. So once again, happy birthday ni Ma'am Marbs Trinidad, ang among kuanin ni Asya sa Baid. sa CBO TVI. So daghang kayong salamat ma, matagan ka og maayong panlawas o dugangan ang imong ginulaman nga kinabuhi. So chair lang ma'am, chair. Hayahay pa sa tanang hayahay. Wala naman tay kuan no, kaya nga tong oras alas 7:15 naman. So happy birthday ka Ma'am Marbs Kikan sa RPN DXKO. Okay, happy birthday Ma'am Marbs gikan sa RPN DXKO. So balik ta human sa mga paningin.
Nasa ba ang Pilipinas kinahanglan nga mokolekta sa 1 ka milyon nga blood units matag tuig alang sa mga pasyente nga nanginahanglan sa blood transfusion. Ang himsog nga tao mahimong mo-donate sa dugo matag 3 ka bulan. Ang pag-donate sa dugo usa ka makahuluganon ug makaayong buhat ngadto sa blood donor ug sa donee. Himuha ang blood donation nga kinaiya sa kinabuhi o way of life. Donate karon aron ka makasalbar sa kinabuhi. Usa ka mensahe gikan sa Philippine Information Agency ug sa RPN DXKO Teleradyo Cagayan de Oro.
It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Mag-ready na ta, ka 11:30 na. Abogado nga ambungan nga duha. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. With a tourniquet and job, it's a lunch break. With a tourniquet and job, it's a lunch break.
Lunch break with Attorney Ken Tamala and Attorney Joff Namalata. Sabado, 11:30 sa buntag hanggang 12:30 sa hapon sa RPN TV5 ug DXKO Radio.
Okay, so sinyas-sinyas man niya akong engineer dire, abi po na ako na timing po na sinyas ako kay abi na ako pag sinyas niya mo saludo sad ko halaka mura tag sundalo. O namugaw daytong lamok. Okay, padayon ta sa atong programa. Good evening day tuod sa mga taga kuan kanang mga taga Claveria, Misamis Oriental, grabe kaayo, no? Ang ilang manggustin. Uy, daghang kayong salamat. Tagtulog yun ako nakaon kaganina. O, 70 kuno, pila tunto, 70 ag kilo. Mas mahal ang mangga karon, no? Mas mahal ang mangga karon. So, katong gusto nga mangumpra, labi magidinoon kaayo kung mangumpra sa kadito sa mga lugar kay ngano man. Kuan kanang bitang presko. O, niya kung mangumpra gani ka, labi na og kana bitang manumpra ka og mga prutas nila, pwede po nga ikaw po ang mukuha, di ba? O, kana kung kuan gyud ka, kanang kugig gyud ka nga mukuhaan ng ilang kuan, kana bitang ilang produkto. O, nga pwedeng ikaw ra ang kuan kanang mangumpra. Kay aron po nga kanang si tawagan ni kanang kung ikaw magkubra, mahimo pang barato. no, barato nya dayon mo na ginang ato laging gakon nga mangyawat ingon malagi ko nila mangyawat kay laliman ka kung igo lang ka mo palit unya din sila na nag-harvest abi nimo kanang natural mahal ginang na siya. Pero kung ikaw, igo ka mo palit, magulat na lang ka sa i-harvest, medyo po mahal-mahal. Kay laliman po ka magsungkit-sungkit ang uban, dili madalag sungkit, di ba? So, mag-need yun o kuan ka na pagkaugma or karon magkuan ka nga kuan ka na bitaw si tawag ani ka na trabaho o kay magtrabaho ako ipakuan ko na lang ipakatkat ko na lang niya. So, inguna na din ang may tabo. Okay, so ang ato lang ini is daghan kayong salamat, no? Daghan kayong salamat tamis kay sa nga tanan ang inyong kanistin. Okay, so grabe kay sa nga tanan karong adlaw kay ngano nakakaon pa mig busog mi kay sa nga tanan. Nagbilin pa gyud siya og prutas, saging, mangustin. Ninda tumuli kaon no. Abusado na kaayo. Bitaw. Joke lang gid nang naagyod kay ngano wa man tay lain lingaw. No, watay lain nga lingaw. Okay, para doon na tayo kalingawan, kamupod nga naminaw, doon na po'y kalingawan, ugmang adlawa. Schedule ugmang adlawa, diha sa Limkit kay mall. Take note, no? Kaya ang uban nga mga mall, wa na biya ng hatag og mga schedule. So, mega site vaccination schedule, July 8 ugmang adlawa, 2022 diha mismo sa Limkit kay Mall. Limkit kay Mall. Bugnaw kaya pa ng palibot. 5 ka tuig pataas, no? 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, paybaluning niya atong 5 to 11 years old, Pfizer ang ilang first dose. Moderna and Pfizer for 12 to 17 years old, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, and Sinovac for 18 years old and above. Alang niya itong mag-second dose, Pfizer. No, Pfizer. First dose on or before June 15. AstraZeneca, Sinovac, and Moderna, first dose on or before June 9. Munang naa. AstraZeneca o Pfizer, Moderna o Sinovac. Alang niya itong mga first booster dose for 18 years old and above. Muning niya siya ang resulta. So, maghulat lang mo, no? Mga healthcare workers, mga senior citizens nato, atong second dose, no? Second dose na siya o second booster o sa baling niya kay kusog naman kay siya mukaon. So for 12 to 17 years old. So mas tiada gid ang kagayaanon, no? Tiada gid ang kagayaanon kay ngano disiplina ug gani bitang bakunado ang tanan. Nahala madam. Katong mga kuan katong nakakuha na sa schedule, please lang i-share ka na ninyo sa atong mga kaigsunan. Okay. Dinita sa gipadalang kuan kanang advisory nila ni Sir Jet o kinsa patong uban. Mo nang ilang matyagan ma'am. No, mamatyagan pa ng naan nila daghan kay sa ngatanan. So importante gyud. Niadtong mga kuan katong niadtong mga mga kaubanan nato nga medyo kuan pag niya sa ilang kaugalingon, no? Atong giawag ang tanan nga kung pwede magkuan mo kana bitaw si tawag ani kanang katong wala pa naka-pa-injection, magpa-injection na mo, no? Kay importante manggod na magpa-injection. So labi nag ikaw nga laagan kay kasangatanan, no? Sa imong kalaagan medyo kuan gyud ang kaugalingon nila kay balo man gyud mo nga sa sitwasyon nato karon. So datagan nato og kay gayunan pod ning uban. Og dagan kayong salamat ya kaninyo no. Awa man tay kuan ani karon sa COVID no murag na masug ugaling. No, na masug ugaling. Ayo sa dana. Mo naning ni ay, ang tuli, no? Congratulations sa tuli. No, kwan kay sila, kana bitong medyo gamay-gamay raman ang nito nga, pero naagyod, no? Barangay Bugo, Agusan, Kugman, karing tawag ani, Kamamanan. Nya din sa Barangay Indag sa July 21. Barangay 26 sa July 26, 28 din Barangay Balubal. Di ba katong mga naka-schedule, nangayong schedule dire, dili na makuan kay kaganina diha man sila sa Barangay Bugo. No, Barangay Bugo. Barangay Agusan sa 12-13. Unsa nang 13? Hala, Miyerkules pagayod. Ala ka Ma'am Iberen hinahinay. Pagka Barangay Kugman, no, July 17. So ang problema na kung kisay maghatod kay kung mato ka dito yung pagyo. Barangay Kamamanan, July 20. Barangay Indahag, July 21. Barangay 26, July 27. Barangay Balubal, July 28. So ang atong mga schedule no ay ninyo ni kalimti kay tanan na gyud niya katong mga walk-in nga open na ra ba kay dinhi sa ato sa Cagayan de Oro ni atong mga non and CDO resident no mo nang ingon ana. So City Health Office vaccination ni atong 5 years old and above ug makiniha alas 8 sa buntag paingon sa alas 4. Munang first dose 5 to 11 years old Pfizer kaning niya. So paybalo sa atong mga kwan kay na may nangutana nga mama dire sa ato kay schedule na niya sa kwan kanang ni atong first para sa first dose niya. Second dose na di ay kay 12 to 17 years old. So nahumana kuno siya. So dapat schedule na niya. Daw bi karon kay kuan man siya giubog sipon so wala no. Kay lisod man kay magbakuna nga do na kay ubo. So gi-advise nga kung pwede dili lang sa so extend dili kwan nga sa sunod na lang no dala. So paspas lang ipainom tubig ma'am unya dayon ayaw pag pataka-taka na lang po og hatag og mga kasi tawag ani kanay bitaw mga tambal nga para sa mga kabataan kay nagtuga nga muna na madala ra nang naa. So ma'am mas maayo gyud nga magpainom kag tambal kanang gi-prescribe gyud sa imong doktor. Importante gi kayo nang naa nga ma-prescribe sa doktor. Di kita magbutbut og kuan kana bitaw hatag og mga tambal para sa ato mga kabataan nga nagkasakit. Bisan og dili mga bata, mga kuan kanang kanang sa tawagan ni mga edad-edaran na nga natakbuyan kay tungod di ba lo ginuman sa atong lugar init, ulan, murag kuan gyud kay sa nga tanan ang atong pagpaningkamot gyud niini. Okay, wala naman tayo igo nga kuan sa atong mga kauban. Kay atong mga kauban kay hapit na ra bagyod kuno ang kuan kanang saninian dry run. Nang saon man gyud ang dry run lagi. Importante man gyud ang dry run. So, di man ta maka-proceed kung wala nang naa. Busa, ingon lagi kaganina kumbate ng gyapon ingnan nga taman ra ka aning 24. Abi na sa lalag dinira ko taman sa akong programa. Bitaw, taman ra sa 24, usang adlaw ng 24, Sunday. Oh, Sunday. So, amo nang ilang kalipay usab nga kana bitaw mahuman na, pero do na pamanday kulang na ayo sa mo paghalala kay sundon nato kung unsa tong gihatag nga schedule o nya natong registrar. Do ra man natong registrar, pagpangutana lang dayon para usab hanay ang tanan. Ha? Mo nang akong gihangyo diha kaninyo para usab nga walay sasaw. Okay, ang oras na to, 7:30 sa kagabion, balik tayo man sa pahinumdum.
Sa hindi gumagamit ng Selvayo juice, gumamit na po kayo. Bakit kailangan mo gumamit? Dahil ang Selvayo juice natin, may natural na juice, titimplahin mo lang, iinumin mo, pwede sa normal water, pwede sa warm water, pwede sa hot water, pwede sa cold water. Kaya lang, bago mo timplahin sa cold, timplahin mo muna doon sa tinatawag po natin na warm water para matunaw kasi natural po ito. No? Ito po ang alternative natin. Kung ikay mahilig sa soft drinks, kalimutan mo na muna. No? Bakit? Una, ang soft drinks ay acidic. No? Acidic ang soft drinks na nagiging dahilan kung bakit dumadami ang may malalang sakit. Pangalawa, ang soft drinks po ay nagiging dahilan kung bakit madali kang magkaroon ng mga kidney stone. Sasabihin nila, hindi naman maalat yun ah. Hindi naman ano yun ah. Hindi naman maalat yan at matamis yan. Bakit kukos ng kidney stone? At iba pa. Unang-una po doon sa phosphoric acid niya, no? Nakakatulong po 'yan para mag-form po ng kidney stone. At yung calcium po na dapat sana na-absorb ng buto mo, yung calcium sa buto mo, alam po unti-unti niya pong nire-release 'yun. Para ano? Para po i-neutralize yung acid doon po sa ating pong gastrointestinal. Siyempre, may natural tayong acid doon sa ating gastric juice. Kaya lang, kung ikaw inom ng soft drinks na 2.0 ang acidity, yung pH niya, paano po niya poprotektahan yung ating pong kalusugan? Kaya po, yung calcium po, yung bone marrow, yung calcium po ay nailalabas at nagagamit. Ang problema, yung calcium na yon nagagawa po niya ngayong patigasin at nagpo-form ng kidney stone. Kaya po, wag kang magduda kung ikaw ay nagkakaroon na ng mga kidney stone kung mahilig ka sa soft. Tanggalin mo na yan. Yung mga energy drink, lalo na yung iba mga energy drink dyan na nakaka-apekto sa puso, tanggalin mo na yan. Mag-Selvayo juice ka na lang. Natural pa. High in vitamin C and vitamin A. Para po ikaw ay healthy na, ang good news doon, malakas pa ang sistema mo. Yun yung magagawa nito. Ang ating Supreme Juice o ang ating CBJ makakatulong sa iyo para maging healthy ka. Maprotektahan ka laban sa virus, maprotektahan ka laban sa iba't ibang problema sa kalusugan. Kaya po, napakahalaga po nito. Bakit? Kasi nga, ito po pwede sa mga bata. Lalo na sa panahon ngayon ng COVID-19. Panahon ngayon na biglang maaraw, biglang uulan. Magkakasipon ubo ka. Mapagkakamalang ka may COVID. Take Supreme Juice para matanggal agad yung ubo na yon. Mailabas yung mga plema at lumakas ang sistema natin. Okay? Selvayo Juice para po sa ating kalusugan. Huwag ka na magduda. Ang Selvayo Juice ay kailangan mo at ng iyong pamilya. Tulad ko, kailangan ko, kaya ginagamit ko, kailangan ng pamilya ko, kaya pinagagamit ko. Para healthy ako, healthy ang pamilya ko, healthy kaming lahat, at gusto ko, healthy tayong lahat. Yun po yung hangad namin dito sa programang ito. Naging healthy tayong lahat. Kaya pag sinagsama-sama ang ating CMD, CBM, at ang ating Supreme Juice, ang tawag po dyan, Power Trio. Ang ating Cell Power Trio ay nakakatulong sa iba't ibang problema ng kalusugan. High blood, diabetes, may cancer, mayroong problema sa puso, may problema sa abdo, may problema sa atay, may problema sa baga, may problema sa tuhod, may arthritis, may low blood, may high blood, nakagat ng aso, nakagat ng ahas, pananakit ng tiyan, pananakit ng ulo, pananakit ng mata, pananakit ng likod. Ang maganda po rito na COVID ka, ito po pwedeng makatulong po sa iyo. Natural na paraan, mas makakamura tayo para hindi ka ma-ospital, nagagastos ka ng mahal. Kaya po, mag-power trio na sa ating pamilya. Tiyakin natin ang bawat mesa ng pamilyang Pilipino ay may power trio para tiyak na malusog ang pamilya.
Mga higala, doon na kita special nga papromo sa atong tanan nga maprodukto sa HCI CMD. Paghatag kita og 10% nga discount sa atong Power Trio, ang CMD, CBF ug ang Supreme Juice. Ug ingon man ang atong eye drop solution sa CMD, mopalit kag duha ka botelya, nini 500 lamang ang imong mabayran. Pahinomdom, pagbantay sa mga imitations. Mapalit ang atong mga produkto sa atong papromo dinhi sa atong istasyon RPN TV5 DX KO diri sa Gusa Highway, Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Ingon man usab dito sa Igpit Opol, Misamis Oriental, ang atong produkto mapalit diha sa DXCO. Hala, pagdali na, samtang may promo pa.
Walay lipod-lipod nga motuki sa mga nagunang issue sa palibot. Patas nga mohatod sa mga impormasyon nga angay tang masayran sa atong katilingban karon. Susan Live matag Biyernes sa gabi, alas 7 ngadto sa alas 8 dinhi lamang sa RPN TV5 ug DXKO Radio nga adunay streaming sa Facebook.
O karon sa atong mga balita. Giaghat ni City Mayor Orlando Clarix Uy ang tibok burokrasya sa City Hall o 20th City Council nga padayunon ang nasugdan ni kanhi Mayor Oscar Moreno alang sa kaayuhan o kabuluhanan sa katawhan sa Cagayan de Oro. Wala ako mangandoy nga hilabwan nako siya o huptan. Ang ako lang mapangandoy nga matagaan ka o kay gayunan nga magmalampuson sa akong pangalaga diha kaninyo. Ilabi na ang mga kabus. Matod pa ni Mayor Clarix Uy ato sa progressing. Kay numduman nga masaligon si Moreno nga dagan ang makabot ni Mayor Clarix Uy sa iyang administrasyon, ilabi na nga duyugan ug suportahan kini sa mga kagayanon sa konseho dinhi sa syudad. Partikular sa gihangyo ni Moreno kang Clarix sa matumanan og Universal Health Care Act ang mga pagtutok sa resettlement program dinhi sa siyudad. Mubiyahe sa Limbahin ang duha o ang napulo ka mga boksidor sa Cagayan de Oro City. Amateur boxing team nga padulong kini sa Cebu City aron sa pagsalmot sa palarong pambansa sa Visayas Mindanao qualifying tournament karong umaabot nga Hulyo 12 hangtod sa 17 ning tuiga. Kini gibutyang ni Team CDO boxing head coach Elmer Pamisa kauban usab si Tokyo Olympic boxing silver medalist Carlo Paalam, City Sports Coordinator Jmar Rivera ug assistant coaches si Donnie Mabaw ug Francis Sinadhan. Atol sa ilang pagkortesiya sa buhatan ni Mayor Clarix Uy kagapong adlaw. Ang 5 ka mga boksidor nga moaway sa Junior Division 15 ngadto sa 16 anyos. Mao sila ni Nick Faila, Jerome Cometa, Sherwin Villanueva, Job Ezekiel Bertudaso og ingon man si Devon Tijano samtang ang laing 5 nga magpakitang gila sa Youth Division ang 17, paingon sa 18 anyos nga sila ni Abraham Borlat, Aaron Borlat, Rosel Sardalio, John Paul Napoles ug ingon man si Crisalde Beltran. Sa iyang kabahin mipadayag sa iyang tiunay nga pagsuporta si Mayor Clarix Uy ug ang paglaom kini nga magmalampuson ang Team CDO Amateur Boxing Team sa ilang pagsalmot didto sa competition sa Cebu City. Sa laing bahin usab, pasalamaton ang 64 ka pamilya nga gikan usab sa Hillside Barangay Lapasan kinsa nasunugan kini ni atong Marso 17 ning tuiga human nakadawat og ayudang pinansyal gikan sa local government unit Cagayan de Oro. Atol kini sa payout nga gipahigayon sa City Social Welfare and Development Disaster Section. Karong adlaw diha sa buhatan mismo sa CSWD. Atol sa mga payout si Mylene M. Hinayon kinsa usa sa mga biktima sa sunog nagpadayag sa iyang dakong pagpasalamat kang Mayor Clarix Uy ug ingon man sa CSWD. Sumala pa ni Hinayon nalipay gyud ug dako na kini nga tabang para sa ilang balay. Daghan kaayo ug salamat kang Mayor Clarix Uy ug ingon man sa CSWD sa inyong hinabang kanamo. Nasahiran nga 5 na katuig nga nagpuyo sa maong lugar si Nayon, hinungdan nga gusto nining mapaayo ang narenov og ma-renovate ang ilang balay nga nasunog. Dugang pang balita, giilaw sam ni City Mayor Rolando Clarix Uy o Congressman Rodriguez sa segundo distrito sa kanhi City Mayor Scar Moreno o dakong kawadon ang kahiganungod o pagbiya ni former Misamis Oriental Assemblyman o 5th City nga Mayor Ruben Canoy dinhi sa syudad. Kining mga kabahin sa minsay nga gilugway usab sa maong opisyal isip reaction sa pagtaliwan ni Canoy tungod sa cardiac arrest sa miagi nga gabi. Sigibutyag sa mga opisyal nga ang kawadon sa gihimong o himsog sa demokrasya ang pagbiya sa kani City Mayor apan sigurado usab nga dili malimtan sa katawan sa syudad ug lalawigan ang mahimo niining iyang administrasyon kaniadto. Kabahin si Canoy nga kuyog sila ni former Misamis Oriental Assemblyman Humubuno Adasa, late Senator Nini Pimentel Jr. o kani City Mayor Vicente Dongkoy Imano o uban pa nga mga Mindanao leaders nga mahingusog sa ang gobyerno sa federalismo sukad pa sa panahon ni kani President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. tuhangtod karon sa termino usab ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. Unang gibutyag usab nga wala nahikurat ang pamilya apan nagpasalamat kini sa ilang pagpaantos o sa pagpanaw ni Canoy dinhi sa syudad. Gibutyag usab niini nga buksan nila sa publiko ang haya ni Canoy sugod sa Hulyo 7 hangtod sa 14 alang sa katapusang paghatag og respeto. Inon usab ang necrological service sa City Hall sa Hulyo 11 ug sa pagkapit sa 7 himuon ang pribado nilang pagpalubong sa patayng lawas ni kanhi Mayor Canoy. Og dinhi natapos ang atong mga balita.
Ani-ana ni ining sibihan inyong masundan, pagtanaw o pagpaminaw ang tulumanon sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi. Usa ka oras kini nga programa sa espirituhanong pagtulunan kausa sa matag simana. dinhi lamang sa RPN DXKO Teleradyo. Sunda ang mga mensahe ipaabot sa Back to Christ Revelation Healing Crusade of Father Lahi sa matang Domingo alas 5 hangtod alas 6 sa buntag.
Buhay na alaala sa kamatayan ni Yesu Cristo.
Gipahinumduman ang tanan nga dili paghihapon magkumpiyansa sa hulga sa COVID-19. Inay, ngayon nga ipadayon ang hustong pagsunod sa minimum public health standards sa ilawom sa Alert Level 1. Ang pahinumdum sa Department of Health nga kanunay magsuot sa haom nga face mask, magpabilin nga naa sa well-ventilated o hayahay nga lugar. Sa panahon nga makasinati sa mga simptomas, diha-diha mag-isolate. Para sa dugang proteksyon laban sa hulga sa COVID-19, gilayon magpabakuna kita sa booster. Alang sa dugang impormasyon, bisitahi ang website sa Department of Health sa www.doh.gov.ph/COVID-19 tracker. Mensahe gikan sa DOH ug sa RPN DXKO Teleradyo Cagayan de Oro.
It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Mag-ready na ta, kay 11:30 na. Abogado nga ambungan nga duha. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. Malawing negosyo ang lifestyle, hindi lang sa lunch break. With a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break with a tourniquet and job. It's a lunch break.
Lunch Break with Attorney Ken Tamala and Attorney Joff Namalata. Sabado, 11:30 sa buntag hangtod 12:30 sa hapon sa RPN TV5 ug DXKO Radio.
Okay, padayon ta sa atong programa. Ang atong mga kaigsunan karon labi na gyud sa mga ginang. Siguro human naman siguro ni ugkuan kanang panihapon ang tanan. Og daghang kayong salamat usab no kay ang atong mga matod palagi nga ang naghimo. Wow, ang naghimo sa cake. Sao na lang. Nakadala ra ba jud ko day. Murag lami gyud kay sa nga tanan day. Sao naman lang. Okay, atong pasalamatan kaning niya sila kay lisod na ba gyud ang pag-mix bitaw. Congratulations dia kaninyong tanan. Salamat. Daghang kayong salamat. Munang napasalamat lang gyud ko kay nabusog jud kay ko. Munang naa. Okay, doon ay paibalusap notice of water service interruption, installment of isolation valve and production well number 30 nga nahimutang sa Biasong Makasandig dinhi sa syudad. So mo kaning ni ang mga kuan nato dinhi sa atong mga kaigsuunan kay mo nang ilang problema gid kanunay kaning niya bitaw magkawala gid ang tubig pero basta gani ingon ini kana bitaw dunay mga emergency so di gid nato nagakapugngan labi na nga mahapon gusto kayong ulan unya dayon ang uban kani bitaw mga mga connection kuanan sa mga sakyanan so ingon ana ila nang gipan repair gani ang gani dinha sa amo gani sa puntod murag himo na nila tanan murag giayo gyud nila og maayo so wala na mi kuan kasi una hinay kan tubig pero karon medyo kusog-kusog na gyud ang tubig so kaning niya siya dunay paghimuon nga installation of isolation valve of production well number 30 nga nahimutang sa Biasong Makasandig ning syudad. So July 8 ugma, no? Ugma kining niab Friday 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Agoy, may gani kay oras ra 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Low pressure to no water, no? Hinay ngadto sa walay tubig. Na, blakasan niya kay api igo pud ang amuaw. Entire city proper poblasyon na entire ha